Okay, my name is Brant Hunt. My channel is Discerning What is True. Today is the 19th day, um, November 2023. I'm going to be reading the last chapter of this particular book, A Study of Numbers. That is chapter 4 by Rene Schwaller de Lubicz. And this chapter is called The Cycle of Formation. The Cycle of Formation. Addition of the point gave the line. Multiplication of the line created the face. And by multiplication, similarly, the face will give the form. This constitutes the cycle of formation. The square is the perfect face. The perfect form then will be that which results from the multiplication of the square. That is called the cube. As in the preceding cycles, the face, in order to become the cube, will pass through all the phases of polarization and ideation. The square again becomes the point of departure for the form, the first pole for the creation of the cube, that is, or as the solid of the solid generally is the face. The cycle of the polarization of the solid, therefore, begins with the face, which is one-dimensional because it possesses a spatial tendency in one direction only, then proceeds to the second dimension in order to become the third dimension, that is three-dimensional. This last phase is the cycle of formation and the cycle of formation. It is always important to recall that each of the three cycles is likewise subdivided into three cycles, and that only the cause varies, and with it the effects as well. The first cause is the point, the second the line, and the third the face. The cycle of polarization is the phase of addition, whereby the non-dimensional becomes the first dimension of the line. By multiplication, the cycle of ideation gives the second dimensions, the face, and thus the face gives the solid by multiplication of a first multiplied. At the base of all creation is movement. Addition is the first, or linear movement, that is. The first multiplication is the second, or planar movement, and multiplication of the latter gives the third, or solid, that is, movement. In a solid movement decomposes into these three principal movements if the body moves individually and not in relation to another body, in other words, in rotary movement about itself. Thus, its first or linear movement constitutes the axis, and its second or planar movement the equator. Its third or solid movement results from the mutual action or reaction of the first two, which one dimension as the other increases, producing centrifuge force. The symbol of the cross in the circle represents the constant gain of the first two movements, which are even more strongly marked in the symbol of the swastika. As soon as there is a face, there is also a reason for the immediate formation of a form. There is a reason, similarly, for the resistance of rotary movement as soon as there is a creature or an effect from the line to the form, because at its base is always the existence of a formative axis or a first line of force. Procreation is, to begin with, the function of a linear movement and thereafter of two circular movements. We have said that the first phase is a triangle, whereas in the perfect phase is a square. First perfect triangles is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the first perfect square is given by the quaternary, that is. The fundamentally or first perfect form will therefore be that which is made up of these two triangles, that is, of 16 units. Indeed, the first square, or 4, give the first perfect form, or cube, which is 16. The triangle alone cannot give a form by the simple procreating function, i.e., that is multiplication, because a triangle times a triangle gives a face, which is 9. The first form, therefore, comes into existence by first the addition of two triangles, which give the square, and second by the multiplication of the square. In principle, the first triangle is 1, the second being the triangle. These two added together give the 4, or 4, and this multiplied gives 16, or the first cube. So the cube is not the first form, as the triangle is the first form, having an effect only by addition, and not at all by multiplication, as we saw above in the cycle of ideation. So the form has a first existence which cannot enjoy the procreating qualities of the perfect form. That is, there is a creative or a causal form whose ideal form is the cube. This first form necessitates has a triangular base and engenders by the addition of triangles. This form is called a tetrahedron. 4 times the triangle gives the tetrahedron. But from the face of the establishment of the 3 sides of this form, the fourth, that is the base, exists. In principle, therefore, it is made up of 12 units. In fact, however, it's made up of only 9. 9 is the cause of the final cube. It is the cause, but it is so only manifested by 12. However, on the moment that the base is constituted by the fourth triangle, hence when it has established the 12th point, it creates the reason for a form whose multiplication by 12 gives the cube. It is made up of 25 times the tetrahedron, whose base is formed by the triangle defined by the diagram of the face of the cube, and whose apex is the central point of the latter. All forms may be derived by addition from the cube and the tetrahedron. Beyond the third dimension, another dimension cannot exist in what is usually called the fourth dimension. It's actually the first non-dimensional state. Quality, casual, space, or in absolute terms, the nothing or irreducible one. This is all that one can say in so brief a study of numbers or first proportions, the divine measure of the maker of the universe, intelligent as the creator, unintelligible to the creatures, and the eternal cause of intelligence. In summary, we may now apply to each of the 3 cycles the following qualities and functions delineated on the chart reproduced on the following page. In general terms, and relatively to the irreducible one, the eternal creator, all creation is passive. This first activity alone produces through all forms of its manifestation the effects which are the cosmos. In particular, the different effects of this constant creation are more or less passive in relation to each other, from which follows the relative activity of matter and masculine activity as opposed to its feminine nature. 7 terms, that is factors, constitute the cosmos in appearance. 9 terms, that is functions, constitute it in a fact. Is the ideal succession indicated above. The term 3 exists as much as the term in 1, etc. Once is it in effect, it becomes cause. The Son partakes of the Father as much as he does of men, as the Son of God himself said. We said that movement is the basis of all because only procreation is the creative form of which we have sensible knowledge. Where for us mortal men there seems to be creation, there is already procreation. Absolute creation is not of our sensible world. Only reason shows us in existence, and beyond reason, only mystic clairvoyance can prove this truth. Procreative or circle movement is a function of time and space. Time and space, irreducible magnitudes, are the essential factors of which modern men of knowledge never take account, but which nevertheless are the most important, as simply observation of nature makes quite clear. Everything in nature is therefore based upon and limited to the fundamental proportions that we have just sketched out in this study. If we are often to rise directly to the immediate cause of a phenomenon, we can, by observation and by analogy, based on these first proportions, arrive at the inward nature of this phenomenon, its immediate cause, and its effects. So what he's talking about up here is, I'm going to try to give you this. I haven't gone through this part here, the top here. This again, the cycle of polarization is a unification of selected sympathetic nature, that is addition, that is creation. The irreducible one becomes 2, the creation of the 5 principal natures, first state of the creative disequilibrium. Then it goes to cycle of ideation, which is energetic formation, absorption of the seed by the unified nature, and the establishment of lines of force, resolution of the 2 natures into one, new androgen containing the 2 natures at the same time. So this becomes the start of a small triangle, becoming irreducible to 1. First quality, the fundamental energetic form, that is, the 1 unidated the 2 and produces 3, which is the reducible 1. And nature equally active and passive. Then you have the cycle of formation, which is a form of growth, internal schism of the two natures so that one predominates the growth of the new seed in quantity and in form to maturity. 3 becomes 4. Functions of multiplication, movement, that is 2, which is 2 times active and 2 times passive. And it's the part of the feminine and masculine principles here. Multiplies and becomes 4, the seed face of the next form. The succession of numbers as proportion in measurement of the cosmos is the following. 1 is activity. 2 is inert reaction. 3 is the effect. Cycles of polarization, that is creation, is 3 equals 1. That is reducible. New active cause 4 equals second inert reaction means 5 equals effect. Cycle ideation, which would be first procreation, multiplication is in quantity. So you have 5 equals 1 active, 1 passive, hence 1 androgen. A new active cause, which is 6, is a third passive reaction, which refers to 7 equals effect. Cycle of formation, cycle of procreation, form the seed. By schism, this last cycle produces the 2 distinct natures, which will procreate in what follows. I think that we cannot do better than to end this modest little work by citing facts and phenomena that science has uncovered and that correlate to the science of numbers. The proportion of the proportion of planets distance from the sun is the ratio of 7 for Mercury, 14 for Venus, 21 for the Earth, 28 for Mars, 35 for Jupiter, and 42 for Saturn. This is a Septuagint cycle, with the sun in the middle, and constitutes a new unity for the most distant planets, whose proportionate distance among themselves are again 7, 14, 21, etc. In time, however, the unity is no longer 7 but 14, and is disproportionate with the previous cycle. In occult science, the existence of 12 planets is taught. Astronomy does not yet know all of these, which is why we do not note them here. A revolution of the moon about the Earth is fixed at 28 days, that is, at 4 phases of 7 days. We now know that for us, the 4th term is the creative, that is, the visible and sensible term. One term is given manifestly by a Septuagint system, that is, a succession of 7 factors resulting from any activity on its corresponding resistance, and 9 occult principles or functions. It will not surprise the student, therefore, should he recall Darwin's observation, which state that mammalian gestation is a function of a determined period of lunar phases. Thus, pigeon's eggs hatch in 2 lunar phases, chicken eggs in 3 phases, duck's eggs in 4 phases, goose eggs in 5 phases, ostrich eggs in 7 phases, and human ova in 4 lunar phases of 10 lunar months or 9 solar months. In the light of the studies set forth above and these facts, words become completely unnecessary. One may simply note that the human ovum is the most perfect of all organized realms actually living. We limit this truth to what actually is, for it is certain that life transported to a sphere farther from the sun, that of Mars, for example, would have to endure the consequences of the new proportion, that is 5 times 7 instead of 4 times 7, which is ours. For us, everything is limited to the proportion of 4 times 7, or 4/7 of the total activity. As we only perceive what is outside us and above us, just in the eye can only see what affects it and cannot see itself. It follows quite naturally that we are in the 5th kingdom, that is, since we can perfectly perceive all that is of the 4th. We possess 5 senses, of which one, touch, is common to all. It is the central sun, and the other senses, that planets, are but modifications of the sense according to the mode of activity surrounding them. These observations and others still more irrefutably are reasons why occult science says that we are living in the fifth subrace of the fifth great race of the world, that a sixth and seventh sense, both already existing germinally, are in the process of developing. They will become perfect when the sixth and seventh subraces have arisen. For this reason, also the quintuplet world is as much of a truth as the septuplet world, if one realizes the relativity of each. One can multiply such examples, establishing the perfect truth in this study by analyzing any phenomenon. We shall limit ourselves, however, to citing a physiological observation concerning cellular segmentation. The Ovian, that is, concerning the function of numbers in the first form of organized life. That is, quote, in the beginning, an organism is composed of a singular cell, the ovum, of which we have already spoken, and whose segmentation as the model of the generation, the proliferation of cells in general. We have already described as soon as the ovum is divided at first into two, then into four segments. These segments already delimited by their separation, a space between themselves, the so-called cavity of segmentation. In the ratio that the segmentation continues by 7 and 14, this cavity grows larger and larger until finally the segmented egg forms a hollow sphere. Whose wall is made up of a simple layer of cells comparable to the Ethereum. And that is it for the study of numbers tonight. Again, I want to share a few other things about this guy, Rene Schwartz. He's written some books here: The Temple in Man, The Egyptian Miracle, The Wisdom of the Temple, Esotericism and Symbol, Journey into the Light, The Three Principles of Man's Awakening. I'm sorry, that's his wife wrote that book. Symbol and the Symbolic, Ancient Egypt, Science and the Evolution of Consciousness. Sacred Science, the King of Pharaonic Theocracy, and Nature Word also. So these are all books. You can probably, anyway, I got this from the interlibrary loan. You usually can get an interlibrary loan from your local library if you whatever state you reside in, and they usually give you a month to read the book, which this book is due on the 28th day of this month. So the day is being the 19th. Just simply, they just have a little thing like this on it telling you when to return it, and you don't have to pay for a book. You don't have to pay anything for the book. You just read it, and then you return it the date whenever you want to. Anyway, we do that here in South Carolina. There's different things that each state does. I recall someone else telling me it was different in other states. They don't allow so many time. But anyway, appreciate you being here. Again, like I said, this is the study of Numbers, chapter 4 by Rene Schwaller de Lubicz. And the chapter's name was simply called The Cycle of Formation. So I hope you enjoyed the book. It's somewhat tedious in some ways. It is more scientific. I prefer, to be honest with you, more logical thinking, but I never majored in math. You can understand that also in college. So anyway, thank you for being here. We'll talk to you later soon. You take care. We're supposed to hopefully have tomorrow at 9 o'clock. I'm supposed to have a interview that is with Phil Langdon. If you'd like to be there, you're welcome to come. It's on my channel, Discerning What Is True, and I will be live on Facebook and also on YouTube. And so hopefully you can be there. That's tomorrow at 9 o'clock a.m. on the Eastern Coast, that is. All right. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you again. You take care.